Hi, and welcome to Your Prosperity, a podcast series on financial topics including tax, wealth creation, superannuation, lending, audit, and many other things that we deal with here on a regular basis at Prosperity Advisors. As with all financial podcasts, any advice you hear in this is general in nature and not to be relied upon. Please contact us for any specific advice. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. It's the 27th of June, 2023. I'm Brendan Campbell. I'm here today with James Borg, who's from Teamwork Technology, a IT specialist, bit of a guru. Ran into him at a few medical events, both had a few medico clients. Run into him at a few things, got chatting, and I thought, you know what, need to get James on the podcast, need to have a chat. Big issues out there at the moment, I guess, is cyber threats and security on the internet. People getting, attacked and ransomed and all those sort of things going on at the moment. James, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here, Brendan. Thank you for having us.
Not a problem at all, not a problem. So as I said, I guess, James, Teamwork Technology, you deal a lot with this. From my point of view, I don't see a lot of cyber attack stuff. I guess I've got one or two clients. I had one just a few months ago, probably put it top of my mind. I've got a client, a medical practice who had a cyber attack. They were held sort of at ransom a bit, got to come in and sort those things out. You'd see it a lot more than I would. So, how prevalent is this? How big an issue is it? Talk me through it.
Look, it's really becoming, it has been for a while, it's very prevalent. We're talking about every email that comes into your business, you really need to double check, triple check, hey, is that legit? But that's not the only vector where they can come in, right? It's, they can tap into your Wi-Fi, they can redirect, like they can tap into your modem and redirect traffic. We're in a society where just nothing's safe, and we get called in, and usually it's not our own clients, right? It's they've been somebody else's client for a while, they've had an attack, and their IT company turns around and goes, oh, we've got no backups, because that's the first thing they deleted, or things like that, where the ransom scenario it's a real threat for any practice.
Yeah, because we've gone past, I guess, the old email from an email address that looks similar to someone in your business that, hey, buy me a $400 gift card or whatever it used to be. Yep. We've gone a bit past that now, and people are coming in basically trying to take data and then emailing or reaching out somehow and saying, hey, give us whatever, 10 grand, 100 grand, $1 million, depending on the size of the business, I guess. Give us money and we go away. Otherwise, we take you down. And then people call you and go, oh, Jesus, what do I do?
Yeah.
Is that where we're at the moment? That's what's happening?
Yeah. And what will happen is that a lot of these attacks, they actually don't just lock you straight away, right? They monitor you. They will. There's a study out there that one of our security vendors was showing us recently, and an attacker can be on your network for up to 6 months before they pull the trigger. And sometimes it's just learning about things like, what are your operating hours? What data do you have? They'll probably try and smuggle some data out, but mostly
it's around in the background and seeing what you've got.
Yeah, they'll have keyloggers on your computer so they can watch every keystroke you put in. They want to mine as much as they can, and then they'll lock you out. And that's where the real trouble comes into play, because they're so in depth in your network. If your backup strategy isn't right, then you're toast. They'll destroy your backups so that you've got no backups.
So backups are interesting. So if they do that, do we go back to what it was 20 years ago and old school backups and take them home in the car? Is that?
No, so
coming back into play.
No, so basically what it comes down to is we've seen and heard cases where they'll go in and change the backup job so that it's not backing up the full data set, right? We've seen cases where a practice will have a NAS, which is just a box full of hard drives on the network, and they'll tap into that and they will destroy the backups on there and then take you down, right? Ultimately, whatever you do, you need to make sure that you've got an immutable backup, right? Immutability just means that fire, flood, locusts, whatever it is, happens at the practice, can't affect the backup.
That's like biblical, mate. There's locusts involved now.
Oh, some of the attacks I've been called into, it's you need to have a belief in a divine power to save you. And
so I guess a couple of questions that I would have on the back of that is, well, what do we do once it happens, and also what do we do to prevent it? What are the kind of the big ones, right? It is prevalent, it is out there. Anyone online, I guess, has a chance of getting done with this.
Yep.
What do we do when it happens, and what do we do to stop it? So, you can take your time and answer those separately.
I'll break it down. Okay, so it's Monday morning. You've had a great weekend. It's been, you had a big Sunday, so you got a little bit of a hangover, right? You come in, you go to open up your computer, and you get one of those errors. You've been locked. Pay us 1 Bitcoin, which back in the day wasn't that much. Now they're 50 grand or something, right?
I guess it probably is. It's in digital currency, I guess, because they can't trace it. That's
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So what do you do then, right? First thing that I always say to do is turn off all the computers, right? If there's still damage going on, right, we want to stop that, okay? Second thing is call your cyber insurance provider. So everyone's got a cyber insurance provider these days. If you don't, then you're going to need to take matters into your own hands a little, right? So when you reach out to your cyber insurance provider, they may do several things. So we've heard cases where the cyber insurance provider will come in and they'll negotiate with the threat actors. We've heard cases where they send in data recovery consultants, but they may want to do a forensic looking into the situation to find out how they got in and whatnot. Okay. Your first instinct is going to be to call your IT guy, and your IT guy is going to have the first instinct of, well, let's just make everything work. Unfortunately, that's the worst possible thing you can do. We got called into a practice recently, and we were called in about 3 weeks after they'd been hit. Now, they had a copy of the data of the server, or a partial copy of the encrypted data, okay? Now, their backups had not been working for about 6 weeks prior to that, okay? Which is in line with, they'd been compromised, they weren't being managed by an IT company, and the backups weren't being checked by the IT company, right? So they've got no idea what's going on. In this case here, we had the data, it was encrypted, and we sent it off to this specific data recovery firms that can actually unscramble the egg, right? Because they can decrypt it. They keep throwing hashes at it until they are able to get it out. Okay, it's not always successful, right? But it is possible. Now, the biggest drama is that the ransomware that they'd been hit with, what it does is it spreads throughout the network like a plague, and it leaves a little bit of the key, their master key, on all the machines, which helps them, the IT recovery guys come in and they grab the keys, they grab a couple of files off each computer, it allows them to put it back together. In this case here, they only had one file, right? Their IT guy got them back up and running with a blank database and, from 6 weeks ago, right? But that extra 6 weeks, so much can happen, right? Imagine losing your calendar and not knowing where you need to be for the next 6 weeks. Now, to make it worse, right? You're a practitioner. You don't go to people, they come to you. So you've got no idea who's walking through your door for the next 6 months.
Yeah, that's very concerning data, but that's so you don't try and get it up and running.
So the best piece of advice I can give you is don't wipe the hard drives. You can get yourself back up and running and start that process, but take the hard drives out of the machines and put new ones in and just start rebuilding on that.
Yeah, okay. And start from that, and then give your other boxes off to the experts to say, see if you can get that back. And if they might be able to do it in a couple of days, couple of hours, couple of weeks, whatever.
Well, yeah, like the last one we did, it took them 4 days.
And they had it all back.
And they had it all back. And yeah, we're all very grateful that we were able to do what we were able to do there.
And then the other part is that gets you up and running. But I guess if it's, say, a medical practice, dental practice, whatever it is, specialist, whatever it is, the other issue is they'll say, oh, we'll sell the data.
Yes.
What do you do then?
I don't think there's much you can do. You have to negotiate and you have to talk to them. A lot of the time,
and that's with lawyers, I assume. You don't just start talking to them yourself, I'm assuming.
Look, the cyber insurance company, a lot of the time will handle that. Okay. I was talking to a business that got compromised, and the first thing they did was call the cyber and call their lawyer, right? And their lawyer drafted up a nice response for their clients, little press release, and the cyber helped, worked with the negotiations.
Yep.
All right. And at the end of the day, it's funny. The part that I found really interesting is they had this hard, you have to pay us, this much. All right. But as the time went on, they were actually able to negotiate with them and pay less for more. They ended up making a small payment to recover, some key data. But the fact that they were able to negotiate was a big thing in their case, because you're negotiating with a business.
But that's the lawyer doing that, not you. You wouldn't recommend
that was the cyber insurance company.
Yeah. You don't. Yeah, those guys. You don't just start ringing them and trying to do it yourself, because
no.
You don't know what they've got. You don't know how to. Yeah, there's experience, I'm sure, that comes into that. And you're right from a point of view. Well, sorry, I assume you're right. I've heard that they're essentially a business, and they're in weird ways honourable, that they do certain things if you pay certain things. It's a weird.
Well, think about
not just some random hacker. This is a business running somewhere doing this.
Well, think about it like this: if you get known that you're not giving people's data back, nobody's going to pay the ransom. You actually have to have a product, and the product is those decryption keys and the fact of whether or not they work.
And so these businesses are known, not traceable, but presumably known businesses, and I'm pretty sure they don't pay tax. Known entities, I guess, to these cyber insurance people. And they go, oh, these guys, the XYZs, they do pay if you do this and whatever. Or they release the data if you pay.
Yeah, and look, the one thing about going to data recovery as well is we've heard several stories of they'll encrypt the data and then they'll encrypt it again and then they'll encrypt it again, right? So the data recovery company comes along and they decrypt the data, but then guess what? They've got to decrypt it another 2 times, and at $10,000-$15,000 a pop. Yeah, it's an expensive lesson to learn, and there's no guarantee when you get to the end of those 3, right?
So the easiest solution then, obviously, James, we do something and they can't do it. How do we stop them doing it? That's surely you now give us the fantastic news that all we do is this and it stops. And yet they don't get in.
It's one of those things. You can't stop it from happening. The only thing you can do is really mitigate your risk and really reduce your attack surface, right? And the things that I believe and the industry is pointing towards is just to have more layers of security. Treat it like an onion. You go home, right? Some people have an electric gate out the front of their house. They click the button, the gate opens. That's security layer 1. They drive in, there's a garage. Open the garage door, security measure number 2. They go to the front door. They got the screen door with the deadlock. 2, 3, and then you got an alarm inside that's back to base. Cameras, adding these layers of security is the thing that's going to really reduce that.
What are those layers? That's like backups done officially, firewalls, so online services, that like cloud-based products, is it?
So here I've got what I'd have to say is my favorite brand of firewall I've ever used. They're great. It's a Cisco Meraki. Sits on the perimeter of your network, and it just updates itself and does everything naturally from the cloud. The good thing about these products is that they have a database in the cloud of, who shouldn't your network be able to talk to? And if they're talking to me, I'm going to stop it. So we can actually block a whole heap of threat categories. And if they start trying to talk to your network, we can stop that. So that's the front gate.
Yep. And you see your IT guy for that, someone like yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, to be clear, right? I can go buy a modem from JB Hi-Fi. I can go buy a modem, get a modem with my internet connection from an internet provider, right? And on the box, it will say firewall, undoubtedly, right? But it's not a next generation firewall. You need to really make sure that it has some smarts to it, because otherwise you're still leaving a lot of surface on the table to be attacked. right? The next step is you need to be looking at having antivirus. Unfortunately, it's nowhere near as effective as what it used to be, but you can't operate without it. Think of it as it's a vaccine. They need to know about the threat before they can, before they can defend against it, right?
Yep.
And that's where we start looking at, layers such as, MDR, which is Manage, Detect, Respond. One of the products we use is called Huntress. It's an MDR, and it'll actually sit on the computer and just watch for something called persistent footholds. So a persistent foothold is something that's sitting there, it's going off to do nefarious things. They will find that. And if they see something, scary enough, they'll actually pick up the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning and call us and say, hey, this new client you've just signed up and you've installed all this stuff on, we can actually see a threat taking place and we've blocked it. We've isolated the computer from the network, right? Yeah. and those sort of layers really, really sort of help.
So you've firewalls, you've got the antivirus, but fancy antivirus and fancy firewalls. What's the next step?
The next one we really like to put in is anti-ransomware, okay? Anti-ransomware, think of it as your last line of defense, right? Because it detects mass encryptions of files and then it'll stop whatever's encrypting those, okay? At the end of the day, we really, really, really rely on that. Some damage is caused by the time it's figured out, but what will happen is it'll stop further damage.
Yeah, so and then do you have online in the cloud sort of logins and data stored in the cloud, or do you have it on boxes under the desk? Backups are obviously crucial and different ways to do that.
You're getting to the stage where everything's going to be in the cloud. If anybody to turn around and say no, the cloud's not going anywhere, it's not going anywhere. It's our future. Gone are the days where people have email servers in their own office like they did 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And that's actually a big target, is these internal email servers. So just moving with the times, and if you can put it in the cloud and there is a suitable product that will do what you want, right? Like best practice, for example, everybody loves best practice, right? In medical, right? But there's no cloud alternative out there for the best practice people, right? The people that love best practice, they don't want to go to something else in the cloud because they love their best practice.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where we look at it and go, all right, how do we innovate this software and make it go into the cloud? Or how do we, make sure that it's backed up in an immutable way so that it's not going to get compromised in the event of an attack?
I think I'm scared enough. I think our listeners are probably concerned enough. And hopefully the takeaway, I guess, is go and talk to a proper IT group, someone like yourself, maybe. Obviously, I can give you guys a plug, Teamwork Technology, or if you've got a really good trusted, IT group you're using. But gone are the days that just, oh yeah, we've downloaded the antivirus. We've got this firewall we bought from JB Hi-Fi. This will sort us. We'll be right. Nothing against JB Hi-Fi, but for the example, so to speak, because it is a pretty prevalent thing. I mean, there's a lot of attacks starting to happen, and you hear about it a lot. So, James, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. You've probably given me more to worry about than be happy about, but that's part of the game sometimes. How do people get in contact with you if they want to reach out? Is it email, mobile? What's the best option?
Look, you can reach out to us via email at hello@teamworktech.com.au, or you can reach out and call us on 1300 456 901. We're always happy to help and just give guidance, right? We don't.
Sounds like
we
love
helping business. Sorry.
Sounds like that number could be on a jingle.
It could be. I was lucky when I found it.
I appreciate it. Thanks again for coming on, and for all the listeners, for a variety of topics, all your financial prosperity, everything we look at here at Prosperity. Please jump on, follow the series, have a listen to previous episodes. And thanks, James. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. Hopefully you liked it. And if so, please give us a few stars, like and share. And if you'd like to follow the series, please subscribe and pass any information on to your friends as well if you think they might like it. For more information about who we are, head to prosperity.com.au and follow the links.